Hello and welcome to the latest edition of I Am Giant podcast, where I'm joined today by Estelle Tremont, an amazing wee character who is full of life and energy and came into my life tail end of last year when I signed up to do a course on belief coding, which we'll touch on during the podcast. We sit and have a laugh and a giggle and share some of the stuff that she's done in her past, going from growing up in England and France to studying politics at university to then working in the gaming industry and being the voice character for one of the biggest Nintendo games on the planet, Krystal Fox. So hope you enjoy the chat that we had, and if you do have any comments or feedbacks, then please drop a wee message at the end of the podcast, and I hope you enjoy it and stay giant, folks. So, morning, Estelle, and welcome to I Am Giant
Morning.
podcast. How are you?
I'm all right. Thank you
Good.
so much for asking me on this. This is a
Oh, yeah.
first for me.
Is it?
Thank you. Yeah, it
Cool.
is. It's a first. And this kind of ties in with probably what we're going to talk about
Yeah.
over the next hour or so. A friend of mine yesterday, Claire, who you know, she said, "Oh, Estelle, you need to do work around being seen."
Mm.
And here I am.
Here you are. Here you are. And hopefully this will get you seen in some of the things that we'll talk about later on and give you a wee
Yes.
boost. So
Yes,
first and
amazing.
foremost, um, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And obviously I know a wee bit about you, but the folk tuning in don't know anything about you. So who is Estelle? How did you get to this point in your life? And tell us a wee bit about how you've come through this into this space that we're going to be talking about later on.
Okay, so I'm Estelle. I believe I had a lovely childhood, nothing to complain about. In fact, probably on the nicer side of a childhood. My mum was French, my dad was English. My dad was from a very English like military background, very loving but very strict. And my mum was complete opposite. She was French, very emotional, and sort of very outgoing. And growing up, I kind of had the very stoic English background growing up. And then during the summer holidays, we'd all go to France and go and feral, in the heat and eat and drink and lots of. And pretty much lived a very lovely yet probably not present life at
Mm.
all. You know, um, was very lucky, ended up getting an amazing job working for Xbox the second I left uni, which I thought was great. I studied politics, did a master's in it all, hid in academia, like fully hid. I was like, oh, I don't want to get a job. I don't want to adult. And then when I left, I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? I'd like to work for the EU and all of this stuff. We all have plans, don't we?
Mm.
And then I ended up getting a job working for Xbox um, because I lived in the same village as these people, and I, helped them out. I did some nannying for them during the holidays, and yeah, I just fell into this job, right? And it was all to do with the drama that I'd done when I was 12. I'd done all these degrees and everything, and then at the bottom, the lady, she was lovely. She was like, oh, I see you've done drama. Oh, let's bring you in. Let's do some voice acting. So at the time I was like, oh my God, I've spent like 5 years like dredging all this academic stuff. And then anyway, so I went and got the job interview and went and did the voiceover for what is now one of the biggest GameCube games. It was the first GameCube game that came out for them and Nintendo at the time.
Yeah.
This shows you how old I am now. Back in the early 2000s. Anyway, so I got the job, and I kind of that was it. Randomly not a gamer. Um, I'm still not a gamer, but did all of this stuff and kind of threw myself into this gaming arena without realizing how like super lucky I was, but
Mm.
also the impact that I was going to have sort of 20 years down the line, right? Which kind of
Yeah.
brings us to this. And so lived that life, back then it was very lucrative. I mean, it still is, but in those days it was just like this crazy, you'd go to work and an 18-year-old would drive past you in a Ferrari, because he'd helped create Donkey Kong or,
Mm.
GoldenEye and all these games. And it was a completely different world. And I didn't actually realise what world I was in. So again, very idyllic, all of this stuff. And throughout the years, stayed within gaming. And it wasn't until my dad passed away, 2017, that I realized that actually I was like, oh shit. Something like really hit me in terms of you have a lot of epiphanies, don't you? And that was a particularly big one for me because my dad was my hero, and I'd spent most of my time in denial around my choice in men, the way I was showing up, the way I was just like, and I'd had children, admittedly, I wouldn't say with the wrong men, but the men that weren't right for me, and there was that inner conflict. I'm not happy. This isn't my life. Yeah, I've got children. So, it's like, what are you doing? You can't fuck off to Ibiza for 3 nights and pretend that you're still 20, and all this stuff was going on. And then obviously, my dad died. He'd been suffering from Parkinson's disease for 10 years. And I know then that, there's a lot of disassociation there. And there was a lot of denial, avoidance. If I don't talk about it and I don't admit it and I don't acknowledge that my dad has his demise, and it was so apparent, if I don't acknowledge it, it's not happening. The old, that's it, keep swallowing it. Let's pretend it's not happening. It's not there. And my dad passed away in 2017. It was quite suddenly. He fell over and broke his neck. And yeah, trigger warning. Sorry, I talk a lot about stuff, and it's like people are like, "Oh my god, that's terrible." I'm like, "Oh, I'm okay now. I'm all right. I've removed all the emotional charge around that." And he died he's slowly paralyzed for 2 weeks. And this was the moment when stuff suddenly starts to like, oh god, your thought process, what's going on? What am I going to do? And looking back, at the same time, I'd literally just got married to someone that I'd met on Tinder. And within 6 months, I'd met this guy who turns out was a massive narcissist. Because when you're in the thick of it, you don't see it, do you? And obviously, whirlwind marriage, my dad was party to this, he witnessed this, but obviously, very stoic, didn't say much. But, I think things all happen. I'm not saying maybe for a reason, but there are huge lessons, right, in things that happen to us. And for me, this was a huge lesson. My dad passed away. This guy really stepped into his own when my dad, left us. And I had firearms officers outside my door. He was like throttling me. He was doing all sorts of terrible things that unfortunately are very common in those sort of relationships. And as my dad died, I'd lost my spark, all of this stuff. He then found what now I'm like, oh, thank God, he found somebody else. Unfortunately, it was called another victim, who was much younger. And it was in those moments that I was like, I'm going down the toilet here. Like, seriously, my bosses, they were amazing. They were like, look, Estelle, you're going down the toilet here. We need to help you. What is going on? You're on that on the brink, right? And I knew it, but I didn't know quite how to get myself out. So, and bearing in mind, obviously, you have children, you have an elderly mom to look after, all these things suddenly, and there is that meltdown, isn't it? Oh my God, there's too much to think about. I tell you what, I'm just going to hit the bottle hard, then I'll sleep, and then I'll be all right for 12 hours, right? And it was just repetitive. I think, to be fair, I probably felt okay for like 3% of the day, and the rest of it was just that cycle. So, my thing at the time was, I'm going to go see a clairvoyant, right? I tried counselling in the past, which is fine. It works for some people, but I'm quite open to all of that stuff, as you know. So I was like, right, I'm going to go and find myself a decent clairvoyant, and I'm just going to go and, and see this one. And I'd never seen it before. And to cut a long story short, she gave me a few of the answers that I was looking for, right? And in those moments, you don't have anything firm that's like, oh, okay, great, I feel so much better now, I'm just going to get on with my life. They were just pointers, and they just made me feel slightly better about what was going on and giving me a steer on what I needed to do. So basically, she said to me, she went, okay, do you work with crystals? Are you open to meditation? She was like, I feel you really need to meditate because this is what's going to help you. and I'd never done it before. And her name was Debbie Morris. She's in the Midlands, and she was amazing. And I was like, right, okay, I'm going to go and have a go. And I went home, and and thankfully work were like, right, we're going to just let you go and do your thing for 3 months, right? Come back, like, not refreshed, but come back okay to face the world, so we can support you.
Mm.
And I went home, and for 3 months solid, I basically meditated, but like 9 till 5, and maybe later on at night, all of this stuff. It was fully intense. Made sure the kids were all right, but anything in between that was just me slipping into another realm, whatever you want to call it. And I can't, I mean, about meditation, don't you? And
Yeah.
all the power that it has once and I recommend this to all of the people that I work with. Go and do it, go and start 10 minutes. And in the end, this was just the stuff and I didn't realize that as I was doing this, and for me, if I put something on and I'll listen to it, within not sort of moments, I'm gone. And then when they're done, I'm awake again. So I know
Mm.
it's not asleep. I know that it's that meditative state. And that's what I was doing for 3 months. And whilst that was going on, all this stuff was just shifting around and moving and God knows what. And then by sort of, within safely, I'd say 5 to 6 months, I started to feel a lot better. I know those timelines sound quite long, but we'll talk about what we're going to talk about in a
Yeah.
bit in terms of instant and quite quick. But for me, even then, that was like I needed to go through that process. And as I came out of that, I met a very good friend who is now my partner, and I started to sort of align with new people,
Mm.
started to feel better, opportunities started to come up, little trinkets of hope started to show up. And I started to, enjoy or see that I could enjoy life a bit more, that I didn't feel so helpless and powerless you know, and that huge urge to look for peace. I think that for me was a massive thing. I just couldn't find peace, and I think that's essentially what we all want to try and find, isn't it? That underlying, like that transcendental meditation, isn't it? That
Yeah.
underlying calm that is within you, that whatever it is that comes along, you can handle that. And for me, there was just this frantic chaos all the time that was just holding me. And I think at that point, that's when I realized, actually, that Debbie woman, she was onto something there with that kind of meditation. So, but by then I knew that was just the start, right? It's an ongoing thing. It's a lifestyle thing.
Mm.
It's, like going to the gym. You feel better by going to
Mm.
the gym, but you need to carry on, because when you stop, you suddenly find that things don't necessarily quite
Yeah.
feel the same, or you
And,
don't
that,
show up.
and that's an important message to get across in it, because with some of the stuff that we talk about, and we've had so many conversations over the past 9 months, and a lot of people say it's woo-woo stuff and meditation and crystals and all these things, but it's what works for you, isn't it? So, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, counselling. I've done counselling
Mm.
for addiction issues and mental health issues as well, so I can totally relate to that. But it's finding what works for you, and my meditation is slightly different for yours. So I do the transcendental the
Yeah, I love
meditation,
that.
which is totally different, which you've
Yeah.
started to experience now as well.
Yeah.
So it's not always just about sitting there humming hum to try and clear your mind. You've got
Yeah.
to embrace the thoughts as well. And
Yeah.
like you said, some of the thoughts that come through can be bizarre and scary at times, but they come to you for a reason. And I think everything that we've talked about in the past happens for a reason. People come into
Yeah.
your life for a reason, like your new partner. Do you know what I mean? He
Yeah.
came into your life at that time that you needed someone like that. And I think when you open yourself up to what is out there, what is in the
Yeah.
universe, the higher power, whatever you want to call it, crystals, all these things,
Yeah.
all these things come to teach you a lesson. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's important, and obviously it leads you to do some of the things that you're doing in the space just now. So, especially around mental health and supporting others.
All of that stuff. And I think touching upon that is that, sort of whatever you're open to. I genuinely, now this is something that I've said this from the beginning, just trust. If every single one of us just trusts that, first of all, that things will always work out right as they're supposed to. And my children always say, if it's if it's not, oh, this is something else I need to talk about, my memory. That's another podcast.
Yeah,
Okay, things always work out, right? And if they don't, then it's not the end, sort of
yeah,
thing. That's it. Things always work out in the end, and if they don't, then it's not the end.
yeah,
And I think for me, and I've said this to so many people through my journey, and my dad was my hero, right? And the loss of a parent is so huge, regardless of what relationship you have with that parent, right? Whether it's great or whether it's not, that loss is still a huge experience that that individual has to go through. And for me, losing him, it was just terrible. But the work that I've done since then, I can openly say now, and I never thought I would, that I'm the happiest that I've ever been, even though that I've gone through that experience, right? So for me, and obviously, you want to, you want to offer that hope, you want to share that, is being able to show that there is sort of hope, there is that expansive life, and to trust that it is there, and to just literally lean back into it, and let go of those things that we might necessarily be leaning into more than we should, if that makes sense. And so continuing on from that sort of healing journey with the meditation, that's when I kind of met Jess, because I knew at the time I need something a bit more special. I need something, and I don't know why I always felt that I needed something really aggressive and I suppose it's the anger that I'd got pent up. And again, we're socially conditioned to not, connect with our own feelings. Most of us are really fucking angry, right? But oh, you can't acknowledge that, and anger's a bad emotion. It's not necessarily, well, it's an unhealthy one when we stifle it, right? But when it comes out and we address it, no, it's an amazing thing, as long as we're sure to let go of it. And for me, I think I was looking for something rather aggressive as a healing journey, and it wasn't going to be a meditation. It wasn't going to be, going to, and do like a small sound bath locally, in your village hall. For me, it was like, right, I need something really immersive. I need 3 days where I'm going to be literally crawling out on my hands and knees. I want something that, and again, that might be a belief, that your inner healing has to be really aggressive. I don't know, but that's how I felt that I needed that. And Jess created this retreat, and and at the time there was an incredible bunch of women, and I think for me it was very bizarre, but it was the most natural thing in the world that I got in my car and I drove like nearly 3 hours to turn up to an old converted pub with a load of other women that I didn't know, but I'd never been so excited in my life that I was going to go in there with all these random women and unpack the heaviest shit that I'd ever had. But turns out it was the most magical experience, but it opened up something new for me, that actually, do you know what? Dynamic meditation is amazing. The deep breath work, is so, for me, breath work is a pivotal part of my healing. I haven't done it very often. When I have, it's been huge for me. And all, I suppose, by me discussing this, is that was right for me, but I went with it. I was like, right, okay, I feel aligned to this retreat. And the magical thing about that as well is that I signed up, and I didn't have the money to pay for this retreat, but I knew I had to do it. And this will feed into obviously what we talk about later as well. But I just knew I had to do it. So when that urge comes over, just commit, just do it. I was like, fine, I'll sort it. I'll find the money. At some point, something will happen. And the morning of settling, this outstanding amount, I think I told you, I just started to dip my toe back into the gaming arena. And somebody had sent me the exact amount that I needed to settle for this retreat, and I'd literally only just come back into the gaming arena. And this person was like, oh my God, it's so amazing to have you back. We really appreciate you. Here's some sponsorship money, just here's a gift. And to me, I was just like, but I knew when I booked it that it would be all right. Okay, my mind was blowing when I opened up. There was a link to settle it, and then underneath was a gift. That's when, if that doesn't show you that there's some kind of super amazing power out there supporting you, holding you, then go back to bed. Do you know what I mean?
And I think that's the thing that I've learned from working with you and Jen the end of last year. It's like, if you open yourself up to manifestation and what the
Yeah,
universe can provide, it's amazing what actually comes across your path to
it's
help you on your way.
huge.
And it's not always financial, is it? It could
Absolutely
be
not.
the right person walking into your life,
Yeah,
or an animal, or sort of just a sign, just something that you
anything.
go, wow, that's what I
A
needed.
piece of cake,
Yeah,
oh, I fancy some
yeah.
cake. And then your
Someone
friend
buying
turns
your
up with a
coffee.
cupcake.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Buying your
isn't it?
coffee, something. It
All of
just,
it. Yeah,
yeah, it's
it's
weird. It's weird and
mental.
wonderful. So
But you
go
have
back
to
to
notice it.
the gaming stuff. Oh,
Yes,
100%. So
yes,
the gaming stuff obviously is quite a jump from politics and academia to
yes,
go into the gaming, and you touched on the biggest game for GameCube now. I remember playing
yes.
Star Fox 64. when it was on the
Yes.
Super Nintendo. So, and
Yes.
that's showing my age because that was what, 97. So
Amazing. It's
that
the
was a
same.
long time ago.
Yeah.
So,
I love
and
it.
then they brought out a second game,
Yes.
which was Star Fox Adventures, which you voiced a character, which you've got there. I see
There
there
she
now. There you go.
is.
So Krystal
Krystal.
Fox.
Yeah.
So
So
obviously that's kind of obviously that was your big gig in it, and it's kind
yeah.
of taken off again, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, do you know what? Like I said, I didn't know it was. So I did the voice for her, and the game was
Mm.
amazing. So bearing in mind, everybody back then, was probably between the age of 7 and 15 or whatever,
Yeah,
And I left Rare to do to follow other career opportunities, still in gaming, to do accessories, all of that. So I'm still in gaming, and it was only until during that time where my dad passed away, all of this stuff that I think again, energetically I was bringing stuff in, or I was like, I need to improve my life, or I need to really harness this gig. Right, we only live once,
yeah.
and someone reached out to me, and every so often I'd have someone send me stuff to sign. I'd be like, God, this is a bit weird, isn't it? What they're doing? Like, how do they remember me? And someone reached out to me and they were like, I'm doing this mod, Krystal's huge. Like, did you not know this? And I did kind of, and I'll tell you a funny story about this quickly. My ex-husband, typical narcissist, was horrific. He found some not safe for work, we would use the expression,
Okay.
very un-PC, extremely adult content of this character on a terrible renowned website. And I remember him coming home and he was so angry, like it was me, right? And
Right.
and I was like, I have no idea what you're on about. Anyway, worst 2 hours of my life. But it was like, well, I have no idea what you're talking about. This has nothing to do with me. I never even voiced it. And secondly, I certainly haven't been paid for any of this stuff. Someone's done a naughty animation, and I just thought, God, what? Like, how is she even on there? Anyway, all this stuff,
Mm.
realized she'd got this huge following from just artists, people who loved her as who she was. And obviously,
Mm.
all these weird worlds, there's different aspects of her. And as I delved into it, she was still very much a thing. So someone reached out to me and said, oh, do you want to start working again? Shall we bring her back to life? Let's do the Half-Life 2 mod. So anyone who knows about gaming, Half-Life 2 was a really good game a few years ago. And one of these guys said, "Oh, do you want to do all the lines for it?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, go on then. I'll have a go." Anyway, there was about this much to do. Free? No, free, as in it was voluntary, but I was happy to do it because I thought, do you know what? Let's do it. It took just over a year to do, outside of work hours, weekends. It was,
Mm.
it was a hard slog. And we threw it out there. And it was, I got kind of in the gaming press, all of this stuff came out. And and they're all like, so many people were just talking about how Krystal was amazing. All these children were playing these games and listening to my voice, and most of the people that I speak to about this, they're always, thank you so much for, making my childhood special. Thank you for the escapism that I was having at the time.
Mm.
Children who were struggling at home, who were struggling at school, who were struggling, in college, who were struggling with parents, who were getting divorced, all of this stuff, children who were really struggling to, obviously 20 years ago, autism wasn't necessarily a thing that was identified or appreciated or valued or any of
Mm.
those things. So these kids were going home and gaming, and they were like listening to my character. So then it was then that I realized that actually, wow, you know, this is amazing that they're still holding her in real high regard. They still feel that. And we know that, nostalgia is a big thing, isn't it, for
Mm.
anybody? Music, smells, like places, all of this stuff. And I couldn't not do anything with that. And in between all of yeah, I am working in case my boss is watching. Yeah, I do work during the day. I promise you. I just do all the other stuff outside of work. um, but at the same time, obviously, I started doing the belief coding, right? Um, and everything kind of, so this is a synchronicity, this is a manifestation, right? Everything was tying in together hugely with regards to, right, I've got a technique, I've got something that I can help people feel better, that
Mm.
that give them some light. I've got the platform, I've got the people who genuinely are open to it, and yeah, everything was just falling into place, and I've got that knowledge and that skill that I can basically share. And it became more apparent for me. Gaming's great, right? We love it. It's a form of escapism. It's a form of relaxing. It's a community. It's a huge community. Tying people in all over the world. But for me, there was also that element of, you know, people locking themselves up in the room, like gaming for like 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
literally hiding, because the outside world isn't a safe place to be. And that for me was like, no, I don't want that. I want to be able to help people game if you want. Yeah. Game
Mhm.
if you want to play with somebody across the other side of the world and you enjoy the chat and it's fun. That's amazing, right? The sense of community. But I don't want people to go into virtual reality because the real world, like grounding and
Yeah.
the rain and, being in the elements is a scary place to be. And that for me was where I was like, okay, I've got all these bits. And don't get me wrong, there were a lot of belief coding sessions in between that to put all these bits together. But now it's, slowly but surely, it's slowly coming together,
Mhm.
all of this stuff. And all I want to do is just share and shed some light and go,
Yeah.
do you know what? It's okay. This is
And
all
it's a
right.
massive community as well, isn't it? So, like, obviously,
Yes.
I play my PlayStation and go on for a wee bit of escapism, but I know there's guys out there that are on all the time. And obviously, within Andy's Man Club, we've got online support groups as well. And there's a
Yeah.
gaming section in that. And there's guys from
Love
all
it.
across the UK sharing their gaming handles and playing each other across the country.
Amazing.
And
Yeah.
it's that community, isn't it? So that they can support each other. And you hear stories all
Yes.
the time that it's people that are online playing Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever else, and they're sitting having players. I used to do it when I worked in the prison service. I
Yeah.
used to come home after a back shift, and there was about 12 of us from the
Love
same
it.
shift, all jumping online with the
Yeah.
headsets. And
Yeah.
our gaffer was eating cheesy Wotsits at 4 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that. But
Cheesy.
we're still having a laugh and a giggle,
That's
eh? So,
about right. Yeah,
but
your pot noodle and your
yeah,
monster
and
drink.
it's just like it's mad when you think about it, and before you know it, you've lost 4 or 5 hours, eh? So
Yes.
I can totally see how people are sitting there
Yeah.
24/7, eh? But for,
Yeah.
like you, I need to get out and experience
Yeah.
nature and the
The
sunshine and stuff like
elements.
that. So in terms of obviously you're supporting that community as well now, as
Yes.
big as Krystal's got, and
Yeah.
you've started a Discord channel, which for me, I
Yes.
still don't know what Discord is. So can you
Okay.
explain a wee bit what Discord is and how you're using that to support your community?
So the idea came from you, didn't it? And this is what I love about it. All ideas are expansive, right? Your brain will
Mm,
never ever be as small as it is in this second now, because the more we start thinking about stuff, everything expands. So you refer to sort of when you meet everybody and you have all your questions and you have all that, like a group where people can join so they know where to come. And I thought, okay, well, my gamers are all over the world. How can I get them to regroup and basically answer the three questions? Tell everybody about their week, positivity, negativity, all of this stuff, or even just to be there and
mm,
read what other people have got to say. So Discord is basically, it's like WhatsApp, right? Except, and it was created for gamers. The emoji for it is a controller,
okay.
and it's a platform, and it's like WhatsApp, only it has different channels. So I have one server, which is and Krystal, because the play on words, Estelle and Krystal, because I'm slowly trying to move away from Nintendo. Um, so I'm trying to slowly, um, and the platform has loads of different channels and they regroup. So I send my link on Twitter and everywhere else. So if you're a gamer and you want a safe space, and this is something that I set my rules up, and I have to say, and this is all about energy as well, and it's you kind of give off and you get back what you mirror.
Mm,
And for me, this community has been amazing because I have nearly 400 people in it. It's only a couple of months old, and everybody in there is so supportive. They're so kind. There's no judgment, that there's no nastiness. There's literally, there is nothing. Everyone's there. And we also know that when somebody posts a message, there's people all over the world. There's always someone awake. Yeah. And there's
mm,
always someone there to share, to read. And as you highlighted, for people to read stuff, to actually go, actually, do you know what? I feel that way. Um,
mm,
and in these channels, there's 3 or 4 that I control, that I do Zooms. I go in and say, come on, let's have a Q&A. Let's see how you're feeling. Let's unpack stuff. Let's show you that actually, do you know what? You're the way you are. that's okay
Mm.
because of past experiences, yeah, and don't feel like, that's the way you are, or that you're being dismissed, that, your feelings aren't invalidated, that actually you've been triggered and that's okay, right? Let's just see why. Um, so I have a few of those channels. I have a check-in one where I encourage people to check in daily. No one does this, right, these
Mm.
days. Like, no one connects with how they feel. How are you feeling today? Oh, I don't know. I'm really annoyed. Okay, well, what is that annoyed? Why? And then in the end, you find that annoyed isn't actually annoyed. It's frustrated, or it's feeling
Mm.
unheard, or it's feeling, unseen, or unvalidated, or unimportant, all of these things. And all I'm trying to do is get them to do that. So they do the exercise, and then, some of them do sort of negative emotions that day, which is fine because, again, lean into how we feel. But then I encourage them, right, come on, give me a positive. And they always do. So it's, excuse me, it's always a steer in that community. And each channel, then they have their own where they can talk about music and they share their art, because I would say like 99% of the gaming community is so creative.
Yeah.
They're so artistic, they're so skilled. And I love the internet because, um, it's a tool that, it's your tool. You use it as you will, right? And for me, the internet is just seeing everybody's creativity, how talented these people are. Share your work, share your art. I'm here to, retweet, repost, or whatever,
Mm.
and they share all this stuff in there, and they feel happy and confident that they go in there and whatever it is that they say, you know, will be accepted, unpacked, they'll feel better, and there'll be someone there, just at the end reading it, and that also their contribution will help somebody else. Same model as your
Yeah.
concept,
Yeah,
which I
definitely.
think is amazing.
It just provides that
Everybody's,
safe space, isn't it?
yeah,
And even sometimes, like, and I know certainly from Andy's Man Club point of view, when some of the guys post on the closed pages, it's not about getting reactions or getting comments or looking for
no,
support. You
yeah,
just need to get that shit off your chest
yeah,
sometimes, and just being able to express that, whether it is on
yeah,
Discord or in a closed group or on Twitter. Sometimes
totally.
you just need that vent, and you're not looking for anyone else to come back and say anything. That's just enough.
Totally. And some people don't, obviously I can't be active in there like all the time.
Mm.
But it's a platform. And some people, they'll post stuff, right? And they're okay with no one coming back to them
Yeah.
because
And
they
they'll also
know.
support each other as well, won't they? Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And I think that's the beauty of it. It's like,
honestly.
as much as the closed pages that we use on Facebook are for Andy's Man Club and guys that attend Andy's Man Club, it's not Andy's Man Club that are running it. It's the guys
Yes.
within the group that
I
are
love
supporting each
that.
other, and that's
Yeah.
the beauty of peer support.
Totally. And one thing I've also noticed with that as well is that in this crazy world with all these, that people are there because they feel comfortable enough to, and a lot of the stuff that I want to kind of clarify as well is I have a fair few trans in my community as well that
Mm.
I wasn't aware of, that I'm like, get here, get in there, safe space in here. It's a community for everybody. And I'm getting quite emotional. I'm quite humbled that these people are coming across that, God, if I can make you feel better, you know, there's a young woman there. She wants to talk about having children, and it's been a challenge with all that. And I'm like, that's fine. Just unpack it,
Mm.
be allowed to lean into all of this stuff. Um, you know, a, a friend of ours, Leanne Brown, she always says lead with love. And that is pretty much my bottom line with all of
Mm.
this stuff. Lead with love, make sure that there's love there, and then everything else kind of falls into place, and that's, for me, that's that, well, there's love, peace, and enlightenment, isn't there?
Yeah.
So I'm trying
If,
to
and if
focus
we all
on
lived
love.
like that, the world would be a better place. And
Well,
I think if
totally.
you look at the transgender, the LGBTQ community, it's absolutely massive now, and
Yeah,
there's more and more people going out there and accepting people the way they are, and
yeah,
wanting to support them. And obviously, a couple of episodes ago, I spoke to my mate Jackson, who's transitioning from Jess to
yes,
Jackson, and just
yeah,
it's for me, it's so powerful, and gives me strength and courage and hope and love
yeah,
to see
standing in their
people can
power.
actually change. Yeah, it's absolutely
Yeah.
massive. Eh? It's
And it's
absolutely
and it's
massive.
led by love, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I always say this, always, when you do something with an intention, as long as your intention is pure and you do it with love, right? The magic that comes beyond that, and
Mm.
after that, and just start small, right? Just lead with love. The difference in that's something that my takeaway: trust, let go, and love. They're the only things that, for me, that I can revert back to and remind people of that.
Mm.
And baby steps and everything starts, all like unraveling as it should,
Mm.
you know.
And it's something that, like, obviously with everything that's been going on the last few years for me, and then discovering yourself and Jen and belief coding and everything, and it's like
I know.
I always speak to people. I always, which I never used to do. I never used to say morning to people, and I speak to people when out walking the dog, and it's
Love it.
something that stuck with me. I remember my gran saying it to me when I was about 17, 18. She says, even if you think a smile, it'll look like you're smiling, or even though you're
Yeah.
pissed
Oh, I
off, if you
love
think of a
that.
smile, you'll come across better. And I think if we can smile at
Wow.
people, say hello, tell someone to have a great. I go in for
Yeah,
fuel, I go for coffee. Thanks very much. Have a great day.
I love
That
that.
might make a
Yes.
difference to someone else. Just saying morning
Huge.
to someone else might make a difference. So
But
I
that's the
think if we could
energetic
spread
vibe,
that
isn't
love
it?
and
That's
energy around it,
yeah.
it makes the world a better place, doesn't
It's
it?
the ripple effect, and we
Yeah.
always talk about the ripple effect, how you start showing up.
Mm.
And this probably feeds into what we're going to talk about with belief coding as well. But if you get up in the morning, right, and you stub your toe, and you're like, oh God, you're automatically going to have a knock-on effect on whatever else like comes in your path, and
Mm.
you as you walk out that door. And the next thing you know, the ripple effect is that you've got road rage, something's gone wrong, you've dropped something, you smashed something. It's the, and I think it's easy for us to feed into these days the bad stuff, isn't it? Like
Mm.
socially
Yeah.
conditioned to feed into the bad stuff. Then actually checking yourself and going, actually, do you know what? I'm going to do something really nice. Because like you say, that smile, in 9 times out of 10, okay, there's some people that don't smile back at me and probably
Yeah.
think I'm a psychopath, but I know it's them, not me.
Right.
I know it's their end. But 9 times out of 10, when you give that smile, God, it makes people, you see that, and they'll maybe say something to you, and then
Mm.
they'll pass it on to other people. It's just simple things.
It's like
But
we've talked about before as well. It's like if someone road rages you and screaming and shouting out the car, they're obviously going through something. That
yes,
10% of the reaction is
yes,
because what's happened on the road.
you in that
90%
moment.
is going
Yeah,
on behind the
somewhere
scenes that
else.
you haven't got a clue about. So
Yeah,
just be kind to the guy, and I've
yeah,
just wave, smile, whatever. So
absolutely.
and let them go on with it. So you keep talking about belief coding, which is how we met. So
Yes.
if we wind the clock back, so it was probably September last year, and
Yes.
yourself and Jen kept coming up on my
Yeah,
newsfeed for whatever reason,
I love that.
and I never had my settings on Facebook are don't automatically play the sound on videos, just scroll past. So I kept scrolling
Oh,
past it,
yeah.
scrolling past it, and then for some reason the sound was on one day, and it stopped me in the tracks because the two
It's
years of
hilarious.
going was it was some, and I'll probably get the words wrong, but it was along the lines of, "How do we get men to stop and watch your video without taking their clothes off?"
I know.
And I'm like, did I actually hear that right? So I
Yeah.
scrolled back up and watched the video, and I was like, right, okay.
Oh,
So
Alex.
I was probably about a year into my TM journey, so I was
Oh,
open to
I
some of
love it.
these
So
things as
you're
well.
already
So
open.
yeah, so I
Because
was starting to go on the path.
there were some people, Alex, on that feed
Yeah.
that weren't open to
Oh, I
we
know, I
got
know.
some
I read the
shit for that.
comments. Read the comments. So I watched the video and then signed up to your master class, and it has. It's. I,
Just doing my
I'm not.
chair, sorry, my
Yeah,
gaming
that's
chair
right.
keeps dropping.
I think it's one of these things that has come in and has had a massive impact on my life. And even the wife said it last night, just because obviously we've been coming doing refreshers with you the last couple of weeks. She
Yes.
says, I've even noticed a difference. She's just going back and doing that because I'd stopped for a couple of months because of the different things, bereavement and illness and Amanda
Yeah,
not
yeah,
being
yeah,
well and stuff. And then
yeah,
just running out of time. Do you know what I mean? Not putting time aside for me to come and do my
yeah.
belief code and
And
stuff.
it
So,
is, we tend to slip back with the
yeah.
self-sabotage, don't we, and the
So
procrastination. So,
briefly, and I know it's not something that we can briefly talk about, but give us a quick rundown on what belief coding is.
okay, so belief coding is a technique that allows us to rewire our own brain. We can do that, and I work with people's belief systems. So belief coding is around people's belief systems because as individuals, we are adaptations of our true self. We are the product of experiences, positive and negative experiences. And our subconscious will store everything, but will also make a note of the negative experiences. And in order to keep us safe, right? And unfortunately, keeping us safe in this day and age is like stopping us from job interviews,
Mm.
relationships, understanding why we're emotionally, unavailable, all of this stuff. And belief coding gets to the root cause of why we feel a certain way or why we behave a certain way, right? Because when people say, oh, it's just the way I am, or oh, he's always been that way, actually, no. I beg to differ. You haven't always been that way. You've had to adapt. And your adaptation to certain environments and circumstances in your life has made you that way. So, with this technique, we get to the root cause of all of this. We do a lot of inner child work. We remove the emotional charge around why we show up a certain way, and we show up completely different ways. You've touched on addiction and things like that. Addictions, that it's all symptomatic. They are all symptoms of an underlying cause, around whatever it is that we're looking for with that particular to fill that particular void. What are we looking for all of these things? So belief coding has taught me essentially, one, like you said earlier, the guy in the road rage car, that's not about me, it's about him. I'm okay. I'm not getting triggered at all. I'm just like, oh, okay. And I don't want to enter rouse, but if somebody's there, I was like, actually, okay, so what's happened to you to make you this angry? Yeah. But it allows, with time, and obviously I've been doing this for nearly 3 years, and I absolutely love this, and obviously I train, and I share my knowledge, but for me, I understand people, and I listen, and I see people, and it gives you such a better understanding on yourself, and to work through those emotional triggers that are coming up. But this comes back to manifestation as well, right?
Yeah.
So if you believe that you're capable of doing this or getting there or having this or whatever it is, then what are you going to do? You're going to put the actions into place to get there. But if you don't, and we're talking at a cellular level, right? Neuroplasticity is a thing. There's loads of podcasts out there. Tara Swart, she's amazing. I recommend that, people listen to her. 2013 was when neuroscientists realized that actually you can change your brain, and all these neuro pathways, you can see them when they're changing. So you on your dog walk, your brain's doing all of this stuff, and all these neural pathways are changing. And that's based on the thought process. So we can actually, and this is probably why with video gamers it's easy for me to explain to them, is that we're running software up here, and for example, a negative experience is created like a bug in there. So what do? We'll go back in and we'll change the code in there, and instead of saying, okay, well, it's not safe to show up in public, or it's not safe to be myself, you go in there, and what we do is we remove the emotional charge, we change the coding in that, and we basically say, well, actually, it's safe for me to show up authentically. It's safe for me to be me, and we change that. And I'm a product of this, because I wouldn't be doing this with you now, because I certainly wouldn't have launched. I wouldn't have learned. I wouldn't have done my Discord. I wouldn't have been doing all this gaming stuff and speaking live on camera, or even trusting that actually, Estelle, people want to hear what you've got to say. All of this resistance, everything that's stopping us, that we get in our own way. And belief coding is a way of getting to the root cause of that. That actually, do you know what? No,
And it
I want to
helps,
be
and
better.
it's like you were saying on the call last night, that you need to start showing up, and you've never done anything like this, so this is you showing up because
No,
you've
this
coded
is
it.
me.
So,
Yeah,
and I remember like the first session you put me through, and it was about doing stuff for myself and saying no, and being okay with that, which is something I've
yeah.
struggled in the past, and I managed to do it, and it made a
And
massive
now
difference.
look.
And then I had a session because the reason I signed up was I've been on so many podcasts, right? Like with work and whatever else, and I love doing them, but I always wanted to start my own. And I just had this something my subconscious was saying to stop me doing it, to protect me from failure, no one listening,
Right.
whatever else, right?
Mm,
And then I done a session with Lisa Marie from the community,
yeah,
and we focused on the podcast,
I
and
love it.
she put things in place, and I went, right, okay, went and done it, recorded the intro, wrote it all up, signed up to this, bang, there we go,
And you've
and
done it.
we're now on episode 60. So it's been absolutely massive for me, and looking forward to what else it can do, and just even things
Huge.
like you say, that the manifestation, and then it goes back to what you were talking about, signing up to Jess's workshop. I signed up to yours and didn't know how I was going to pay for it, and then got a pay rise at work 3 days later.
Oh my God, you did. I
You know what I
remember you
mean? And
saying,
it's just like, because I
right.
wrote it on my board. I'm still to win the lottery because I've wrote that on the board as well, and that's still to
Yes.
come in. But I'm still
You need
putting
to
that
be
out
more
there.
specific,
Yeah.
though. More
Well,
specific.
postcode lottery jackpot. That's
Amazing.
I'm on
Okay,
the
we've got
I'm
it.
on the
We've got
chap at
it.
the door. Um, So we're still waiting for that. But it's one of these things that I suppose you keep putting out there, and the universe will
Yeah.
eventually provide you what you're supposed to be getting.
Totally, because and if you look into it, I mean, obviously this is getting a bit deep, you might lose a few people on this, sorry. You talk about frequency, and it is, we're all on our own frequency,
Yeah.
and it's a perfect example of, you know, like I said, stubbing your toe, all of this stuff, you're in that low vibe, and then everything goes wrong. But then if you decide to actually, do you know what, that really fucking hurt, but that's going to be okay. I'm actually, I'm going to change that, the rest of the day goes differently. And it's funny that I should bring that up. So a friend of mine, I've been talking to her about belief coding. I reckon she's gonna ask me to help her train, which I love. And she messaged me and she said she's had a session off me. Her mind's been blown. She's got the metaphysical book, which I've got here, which again is just crazy. And she messaged me and she sent me a picture of a stone that had hit her windscreen. Right? I mean,
Mm.
let's be honest, how I felt for her when I saw that. And she sent me a voice note. She went, "Oh my God, Estelle." She went, "Look how pretty this is." Like this, right? And I was like, and she went, I can't believe, right? We've been working on anger, right? And we're open to anger, right? Because we all have anger and it's
Yeah.
important to acknowledge that, and that she's working on it and she's so happy. She was like, "Look at this. Normally I'd have gone nuts." And I was like, "Well, normally, to be fair, I'd have gone nuts for you. This is really bad."
Mm.
She went, "But I feel all right. Look how pretty. It's a star." She went, "It's a sign." And as she sent me that, her voice note was 1 minute, 11 seconds long. Right.
Mm.
So the whole thing, so you can either choose to see those things
Yeah.
and be open. And if you are, but that in itself was just a perfect example how she could literally have spiraled out of control based on that. But
Yeah.
she didn't. And she went off and she probably had a lovely day because we had that interaction. It was like, yeah, it's a start, it's a sign, all of this stuff. Oh, I'm going to work. I'll speak to you later.
Yeah.
You know,
And it goes back to that one negative thing shouldn't impact your whole day as well. Eh?
exactly.
And the
Exactly.
bit that freaks me out is the numbers. Like you check the
Yeah.
time and it's 12:12, and you just
Yeah.
it's like
Always.
it fries my nuts. So
Always.
one of the things that I don't even know, it just blew my mind, was the first session that we did and ended up in a past life. And
Yes.
I was whoever I was in
You
a
were like
past
a
life.
king. You
I
were
was a king.
someone
I had the
really. Yeah.
popcorn, I had the crown, I had the big
Yeah.
gold staff. And
Yeah.
then at Christmas time, I went down to the office for the Christmas night out at work, and ended up getting a session of Reiki with Sarah, another amazing human being that came into my life.
Yes. And you said,
And
didn't
and
you?
the same figure came through as my
This is
spirit guide,
huge.
and it just, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. But that just
I love it.
blew my mind, and opened me up again to actually believe that there is other stuff out
Yeah.
there. Eh?
And I think
Not,
on that note, I always joke around because I ask people, because some people aren't open to it, but more people are open to it than not. Do you believe in past lives? And they're like, "Oh, yes, I do." And I'm like, "Okay, great." So as if we didn't have enough shit to deal with in this
we
life,
have to
yeah,
deal with
we're
that.
bringing stuff in from the other, you know. But the crap from the past life stuff is is the stuff that actually has the residual, which is why it shows up in
Mm.
this life, which is why it's important to clear it. And I've had a fair few that have come up. I had this week with my plushie, that was that element of panic, wasn't it? It was the panic that I'd
Yeah,
been buried alive, sorry everyone,
all right.
but I can understand how that panic would have threaded through, this is why, again, that we experience certain feelings around certain events,
Yeah,
and it's understanding why we feel, oh God, I feel really nervous, or there's an element of panic. Why do I feel panic when I'm sat in my nan's lounge, right? It's just, but they're little pointers as to what's happened in the past that our
yeah.
subconscious is basically making us aware of to keep us alive and safe. It's just absolutely just fascinating
And
when you
I
dig.
think it is. It's a massive topic that obviously we've sat and talked about stuff for every week for a few months, and it is a
Yeah.
massive area. And I think it probably deserves an episode on its own. Do you know what I mean? And we can maybe get you back in
Yes.
with
I'd
your partner in
love to
crime,
do
Jen,
that.
and we can sit and
Yeah.
talk about belief coding.
Yeah.
And we'll do that to celebrate me getting accredited in a couple of months.
Yes.
So,
Well, we've set the
let's
deadline,
set
haven't
a
we?
deadline. So let's do
We're
it. So
here.
so
Yeah.
you're quite good at this for being your first podcast because you keep threading things in.
Oh,
So you threaded in your plushie there. So
I did.
obviously you've gone, and it's going back to Krystal as well. So
Yeah. And the gaming
what's
thing.
what's the plushie? Tell us about that.
Okay, so this is all very new to me. Now, in the UK, that people don't necessarily have a thing about plushies, right? And you know that like a soft toy,
Mm.
they are literally just soft toys. And in America, they go mad for them, like
Yeah.
literally mad.
My
So
niece, my niece collects all these different things as well. She's one of them.
yes, absolutely. So I didn't know about this. So Jason, who I work with, this give him a small plug. He's amazing. He is a one-man band. He used to work for Sony, but he basically is developing on his own this game that we're doing called Event Horizon, and he's just doing it on his own. He's just tunnel vision. He's amazing. Excuse me. And he's like, "Oh, Estelle," I won't do the American accent because that's terrible, but it was like, "Estelle, you have a look at plushies. This is a great thing. There's a few people that we've worked with before that have done it. Why don't you do it? We'll call her the Krystal Emotional Support Plushie."
Mm.
And again, I was like, oh, felt a bit uncomfortable. What is that? Oh, no one wants anything to do with me. And a plushie, who's going to buy my merch? All this stuff. I did go and do the work around that because obviously we've done it. And we did a launch campaign. It's gone live, and we needed to hit 200 minimum to actually make it happen, right, as an MOQ. And we did it like 3 days ago. So posted the link. She It's what she symbolizes
Yeah.
basically. It's the symbol of her. I call her Krystal. I no purposes. I'm slowly moving away. But it's what she symbolizes. She has my glasses. She's connected to the original character, but it's the emotional support. It's
Yeah.
if you see her, there's "I love you" on her t-shirt. I just want gamers to see her, and I want to make this very clear. I probably still need to do some belief coding work around this, but I don't. It's not about me. Yes, I'm putting myself out there, and I'd like to be that beacon of light for people,
Mm.
but it's not about me. It's about that community. It's about that safe space. It's about being safe to express yourself, being there. Having somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And she is that, she's that symbol. She is that beacon. Yes, admittedly, she looks like me, but because of my voice and the character, I need to maintain that link. So at some point, I will move away from that
She's
character.
probably about the
You
same
know,
size as you as well, isn't she?
yes, the real life
Yeah,
version. Yeah.
real version.
So for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm like, okay. So Alex, how tall are you?
I'm 6'9", and Estelle's just a wee pocket rocket. So
I am. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
5'2".
yeah.
Literally.
So polar opposites. But no, so we'll share the link in the show notes. So you've
Thank
hit your
you.
minimum quota. So they are
Yes,
going into production now. Eh?
they are. So they're happening,
I
and they're
pledged
still
my
going up now.
yeah. Well, I pledged my $2 last night. So
Oh, I love
I
you.
got one last night.
Oh,
So
that's making me
uh,
really emotional.
I'll
Thank
get
you for
I'll
doing
get
that.
put on the shelf beside Boba Fett
I
somewhere.
I'll sign her for you.
Yeah, awesome.
I'll do a signature for
Awesome.
you on her. But
Awesome.
yeah,
So
I
we've
love
got that.
that.
So we'll put that in the show notes,
Thank
and
you.
we'll share all your social media stuff as well, because
Thank
as
you.
you say, some of the artwork for Krystal is pretty spot on. Like there's some good stuff out there, and it's
Yes.
good to see that
There's an
community growing.
eclectic
And
mix,
so
and
we'll
there's a
share
lot of
all that in
talent.
the show notes. So the one question I ask all my guests, and it's
Yes.
something we've asked a few times in Andy's Man Club, is what's your
Okay.
guilty pleasure song? That one song, if you hear it on the radio and you're driving along in the car and the sun's shining and the windows are down, you have to turn it up. You have to sing every word. What one song is it?
Oh my word. Oh, you've put me on the spot. Um.
See, mine's "This Is Me" from The Greatest Showman, and I just turned
Oh
it. And it came on
yes.
yesterday. I was driving home from Dumfries, and the windows were open, the sound was up, and I was pure giving it loudie,
Do
like
you
the
know what
bearded
that?
lady.
Yeah, do you know what? What is it? It's God, who is it? I am what I am. I am my own special creation. That's the one. I
That
love
one.
it because it reminds me of my friend. And yes, so I would probably say that
There
one.
you
And I
go.
do know
There
pretty
you go.
much most of the words to that as well. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that.
She knows the words, but she doesn't know the song. Was
I
it
don't
no
know
Eartha
what
Kitt or
is
something?
it?
Was it Eartha Kitt?
What is
No.
it? Put it in the comments or
We'll
wherever when you're
put
doing
it.
the podcast.
We'll find out. We'll Google it, and
Yeah, let's
Stella will
find out.
Google it off our Spotify, and let us know what it is. So,
Yes, I'll find out.
so thanks for coming on. So
Oh,
if
thank you for having
people
me.
do want to know more about you and belief coding and whatnot, where can they find you?
Okay, so you can find me on Twitter, but that's my Krystal one. So my Twitter is, you'd think I'd be organized,
Real
right? So
Krystal Fox.
that's it. So see, you know what you're doing. The
I
real Krystal
wrote it
Fox,
down. Wrote it down.
love it. And the belief coding one on Instagram. I've been quite dormant on there for was standard Instagram, because I've been doing a lot behind the scenes with the Discord and the gamers. But I'm
Mm.
on there. You can reach out to me. I'm Estelle Belief Coding Trainer on Instagram, at Estelle Belief Coding
And
Trainer.
as I say, well, I think it would be unfair not to do an episode just on belief coding,
I
because
love that. Let's do it.
I think it is massive. So
Yeah.
we'll have a look at that, and we'll see, because we've not seen Jen for a while.
I
So,
know.
well, I
I've been
certainly haven't
messaging
seen
her.
her for a while. So
She's working behind the scenes. She's
uh,
honestly, she's amazing. I miss her loads. For anyone that doesn't know, she's like my right hand woman. We're a pair of, that we
it's your
work
work
together on
life,
this.
your work
She
life.
is. She's my work wife, and I miss her massively, massively. But yes, we've done a lot of things together, and it's amazing. So
So no, an
yeah.
absolute pleasure to have you on, and
Thank
genuinely,
you.
you're one of the nicest, most inspirational, empowering little human beings I've ever met.
Oh, thank you. You can make
And
me cry.
you
Oh,
obviously
but
came into
thank
my
you.
life for the right reasons as well. So
Oh,
which
I
has helped
love
me
that.
get to
And
sit here talking to you.
likewise,
Yeah. So,
likewise, a lot of
and some of the
magic.
conversations we've had in the past about life and the universe, biohacking, and you're even dishing out magnesium tablets at the local pub because
I
you get
am.
you on magnesium. So um, it's been an
I am.
absolute pleasure.
I've loved it. I've loved it. Thank you so much. And I love our chats anyway. And
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing what you do, like, over the next few months, years.
yeah.
It's going to be
I'm sure it'll
amazing.
be good. I'm sure it'll be
Well
good.
deserved.
But thank
Thank
you.
you. All right. I'll see you soon.
Right.
Bye.